Activists and thinkers representing 6 of the major world faiths: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. And it was a demonstration that, that on this we were all in agreement. At a time when the religions are often thought to be chronically at odds with one another, on this we could all agree, and we could reach across the divide and work together for a better world. And perhaps in question time, I shall tell you some of the things that we've been doing with the Charter, and I've been wonderfully excited to find what so much is going on here. When I go back to London and get in touch with my colleagues in the United States, I shall be so happy to tell them. And I entirely agree about your idea about Bali being an island of compassion. I could hardly... I was so excited about it, I didn't sleep last night. But now my brief today is to just see how the world religions, one way and another, have expressed this ethic. And one of the very first people to formulate the Golden Rule in a form that was actually written down was Confucius, for whom I have a real affection, because Confucius is so easy. He's not so daunting as some of these sages, going off into the desert or into the wilderness and fasting. He liked a good meal, a song, a glass of wine, and his way is simple, because his disciples asked him, Master, which of your teachings can we put into practice all day and every day? And what's the central thread that runs through all your teachings and holds them all together? And Confucius said, Shu, which means likening to the self. Use your own feelings, he said, as a guide to your treatment of others. Never treat others as you would not like to be treated yourself. Look into your own heart, discover what gives you pain, and then refuse under any circumstance whatsoever to inflict that pain on anybody else. Never treat others as you would not like to be treated yourself. That's the central thread, he said. That's all I'm teaching. And notice, he says, all day and every day. In England, when we've done something nice for somebody, we often have a habit of saying, well, that's my good deed for the day, as though we could then return for the next 23 hours to our usual selfishness and greed and unkindness. No, all day and every day. Why is this so important? Because you leave yourself behind. The Greeks had a word which has slightly been vulgarized in English, ecstasy, ekstasis, which doesn't mean necessarily going off into some kind of trance, though it can mean that. It means stepping outside, ekstasis, standing outside the self. And all the great sages and prophets have told us that it is selfishness, it's our egotism that holds us back from enlightenment, from the divine. And if you are dethroning yourself from the center of your world and putting another there constantly in the Golden Rule, then you are laying ego aside. And one of his disciples, his favorite and most talented disciple, describes beautifully the experience of living with, as he says, ren, which Confucius always said refused to translate it, but later Confucians would call it benevolence or compassion, because he said it's humanity. This is simply how human beings should behave. And you leave that self behind, and you have an ecstatic experience. But it goes all day and every day. It's not just is part of your ordinary life. You're constantly straining ahead, said Yan Hui, towards the ineffable. But not with any great mortifications or feats of meditation. but simply by putting other people first. And his